Hi YouTube. I was just finished up this build and I was dying to upload it, but I came across a couple of problems, a couple of issues before I list it as a complete build. Let me see if I can get a little better lighting here. I guess that I have these yellow bulbs in my apartment, so it's a little yellowish. But let me start by starting by saying that this started out to be a good build, and then it turned out to be one of my worst builds. And then all of a sudden I came across a statement on Google that fixed up the issues that I had with this truck. So this truck started out to be, I bought a used HOBAO Hyper SS cage TRUGGY, and then what I did was I was trying to look into upgrading the entire truck, and at the time they didn't make the upgraded chassis in a TRUGGY size. They only made the upgraded NITRO version chassis in a buggy size. So what I ended up doing was I had all the upgraded parts for a TRUGGY, and what did I do? I converted a buggy into a TRUGGY. So I don't know what to call this. A druggy, maybe? Who knows? So basically what you're looking here is a Hyper SS buggy with all the TRUGGY upper and lower arms. Okay, so let's get into this build here. This is a stack of all the upgrades I did. Obviously I had to use other parts for this truck, and what happened was initially when I did this build I realized that the front CVDs, let me just use a spotlight on this, the front CVDs did not go in deep enough into the dips, and I had a problem listing this as a complete build. So basically HOBAO realized that they had an engineering problem with this truck, and came out with an optional 2 millimeter longer CVD, and they actually made the shafts a little thicker. So if you see in there, I'm going to take off the wheel so you can see everything I've done to this truck. So if you look in there, they're in there nice and deep, and you're not going to have any problems with the cups, So what I ended up happening, I wanted to do all the upgraded parts. So let's start from the front here. This has all the new lower arms. Okay, the original are one piece. They're not as thick as these lower arms. The upper arms are the same, it's just the lower arms. And then the front bumper is different on the new version as opposed to the older version. So you have to get the new bumper, and then you have to, of course, get the front and rear brace changed to do the conversion. These shocks are off a HPI D8T. I like these a lot better than the original. They're full aluminum with the boots, and it's just a nicer shock. I ended up using a lot of parts that are not from HOBAO. I ended up using an Alpha 0.28 motor. This motor is killer. So let me explain to you what I did here. So all the upgraded parts, I went with a single, with the electric version center diff. And of course, this whole truck, like all my builds, I use ceramic bearings. All right, Savox front and rear. The throttle and brake is a 1258, and then the steering is a 2274. But I went with the vented disc brakes. don't know if you can see in there. Ceramic, so this dent, and then the ceramic brakes. All this has been upgraded. The center CVD is off of Kyosho, because what happened was, if you're gonna use this center diff, you can't not use the HOBAO CVDs with, you would have to use a dog bones. So what I did was in here, I don't know if you can see it, it's a CVD in the front, and then I had to use a dog bone for the rear. Okay, so this is the alpha motor. This is a great little motor, 0.28. There's a lot of work put on this. I did a two-tone. So the chassis is the upgraded chassis that belongs to the buggy. And then obviously this is, I did all the hot racing washer, Chronicle washer covers on it. I went with the orange, silver, and green on this truck. You can see in there, just there's a lot of work in there with the front brace and then the rear aluminum brace. Let's see if I can get in here from here so you can see it. So this is obviously a polished rear CVD as well as the front. Okay, so let's just go to the back here. Same thing with the back. These are the upgraded lower arms. You'll see on the new version. Same thing with the rear bumper. You got to change. Same shocks in the rear. Like I said, there's a lot of work to this truck. Let's see if I turn this off. You can see a little bit better. Maybe it's a little bit better. Of course, like always, I always use my socket screws. K&N filter. These filters are great because you don't have to oil them. So this build was didn't come to a complete build only because I couldn't figure out how to fix the front CVDs. And like I said, it was upsetting me because I couldn't believe that a company like HOBAO couldn't come across fixing this, and I had no idea that they actually made an optional until I Googled it, and some guy said that he tore up his cups. He contacted them, and they issued him a new set, which was the optional set. I was able to go on their site, and sure enough, they had it. I have used Chronicle washers on everything. I mean, that's just the way I build things, and just my little details. But this truck has an awesome stand. Let me just take it off the stand here for a second so you can see it. See how wide that is from the front. Very wide. Very wide in the front. You can see that. Okay. Let me just turn this around. You can see it from the side. This thing is killer, man. This thing is killer. I use the Src tires. These tires, I love. They're very sticky. If you feel these, they're very sticky and nice. These will never, pizza pie on you. These are very, see, I even want to say like the steel belted radials, tires, but these won't pizza pie on you. So let me put this on the stand back, take off the wheels, and you can see what it looks like. Just give me a second here. Let me unscrew these. Okay, So now this is what it looks like without the wheels. Let me turn this light back off if you can see a better look. These are for Kyosho. I went with the extended hubs. For some reason, with this upgraded, I upgraded these. Let me just turn this around. For some reason, the original wouldn't fit properly. See if you can see in there. There's just a lot of work. Everything's been shimmed. This part's been shimmed. There's no play whatsoever, side to side. This has been shimmed. You can probably see in there the shims I have on both sides. I have a shim in here. This has been shimmed. The hubs have been shimmed. Everything's been, shimmed on the front. But these are Kyosho. I'll give you the part numbers now. Just give this a little twirl. Let's show you what this looks like. I have a hot racing carburetor dial. I have that in every of my builds. Aluminum rear hub carriers. Same thing. This all has been spaced out. This is all spaced. Shims. This has been shimmed. This thing is solid like a rock, man. I'm telling you, I just like shimming everything because if there's play, it's gonna eventually ruin the truck, So I use these Chronicle washers everywhere. You can see in there how everything is nice and neat. So like I said, I didn't know, even in here, it's shimmed out. If you can see the shim in there, this is shim, so this doesn't move back and forth. No, this thing is solid like a rock, man. Nothing moves here, nothing. Everything's super, super tight. The whole steering is super tight. The suspension is tight. I have about a 6mm gap in the front, 8mm gap in the rear. So this is it. This is the HOBAO Hyper SS cage buggy with the TRUGGY conversion on the whole front and rear end. Okay. So like I said, everything's ceramic bearings. I don't know if you can see in there. Let me see if I can turn. But I use ceramic bearings for everything, on all my builds. Ceramic bearings in the middle. Let me see if I can get in there. Probably not. But even the center diff has ceramic bearings. Excuse me. It's a tongue twister. The diffs have ceramic bearings. The clutch belt has ceramic bearings. This thing is super, super smooth, man. When I tell you smooth, like I said, vented disc brakes, or with the ceramic brake pads. I have springs on the brake pads, so they react quicker. Interg steering horns. So let's go down the list on everything that I used here. Let me just take the rubber band off. This is going to be a little difficult to show you guys. It's a lot of stuff. So let's take half the stack. So this is the Bullet Machine double-sided servo horn that I used here. This is the steering from Interg. The fuel cooler, which it's hard to see in there, but it's in there. I don't know if you can see in there. It's in there, the fuel cooler. All right, the cage. I even used green colored 3mm lock nuts on the entire build. Inside, they're in there. So now that I got the optional, this turned out to be one of my best builds. Let's continue with all the upgraded parts. Fuel cooler. This is the aluminum rear hub carriers. The machined 17mm hex wheel nuts. Sorry. Let me just show you. These are really nice because you can hand tighten these. Let's continue here. This is a secondary piece to the servo. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I ended up buying green ones and silver ones to mix match. Serrated wheel nuts in orange. I had that. Okay, so these are the Kyosho parts I ended up using. So this is the universal center shaft. That's the part number. These are the wheel hubs from ST. Okay. These are the shims that I used, 8x12x2. These are the Acer ceramic bearings I used. These are spacers that I used in green throughout the build. This is what I used. These are the lock nuts in green. Rear lower arm holders. This is the new number. Wheel hub set. Actually, I didn't get to use this, so scratch this one out. The hedge pins. Okay, so the shock standoffs. These are from HPI for the shocks. Shock springs. Shock standoffs again. This is the lightweight front shock tower. Optional part. OP is optional part. Exhaust manifold set. I had to use this off a Hyper MT. So the reason that this header is off a Hyper MT, the reason why it's big enough to wrap around the lower part of the actual cage. Let's continue here. This is another part that I used. A wing mounting post. Front and rear gearbox set. The optional rear chassis stiffener set. An engine mount. And the front chassis stiffener for the front. Let's continue here. The rear Cvd shafts, optional part. Don't know what this is. This is what I'm talking about. This is the most important one. This is the optional part for the front. This is this front Cvd shafts plus 2mm. This, for anybody that has a Truggy, Hyper Truggy, Hyper SS cage, you need this part. If not, it's gonna ruin your truck. This is a cage side guards in silver. SSD Cvd shaft, part number for that. Cvd shaft again. Didn't get to use this, so excuse that. This is differential cases. Suspension arm turnbuckle. Front middle cage tubing in silver because I did a two-tone. And then this is the optional SS left and right C-hub set, part number. We're almost done here. From bumper set, this is the optional, okay, part number, which is important. Hyper SS front upper arm set. Since I did the whole thing brand new, I might as well. Hyper new front lower arm set, not part number. This, I don't know what this is. Rear lower arm holder, optional part. This is the center diff mount set. This is the optional part. So this will fit the SS, the GTB, the GT, Okay, there's the rear arm holder, optional part. This is the new rear lower suspension arm set for the rear. That's the new part number. The center universal drive shaft set. That's the part number for the drive shaft. Actually, you know what? Scratch that because I ended up using the Kyosho, so scratch that part. No, I'm sorry. Lightweight CNC chassis, 4mm. So this is a 0010. This is the lightweight CNC chassis that's for the buggy, okay? And then you have the rear shock springs, which I didn't end up using. So scratch that. Anyway, guys, I just wanted to show you this build. I know I went a little longer than what I should have on this video, but I hope you enjoyed it. And stay tuned because I have a lot more to come, okay? Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching. Take care.